Andor finally had its big season one moment with one way out as Cassian and the crew roared their way out of prison. But amidst all the chaos, there was another revelation that left Star Wars fans theorizing about a potential Jedi twist. Of course, we're talking about Luthen Rael and his origins. In today's video, we're going to talk about Luthen's connection with the Force and Andor's big moment, so keep watching. First off, there's more to Luthen than meets the eye. Andor's 10th episode, One Way Out, was easily one of the best Star Wars anything perhaps ever. It had it all, from stellar performances to brilliant writing, and while it'll probably be remembered for the insane prison break sequence, it also gave us one of the best monologues in the franchise's long 44-year history. Yep, we're talking about Luthen Rael's admission at the end of the episode where he confronts supervisor Lonnie Zhang. Now, we have to give credit to Stellan Skarsgård for his performance, cause he absolutely got lost in the role. Coming back to his character though, the speech had a hint of jadedness, almost as if it was an admission from Luthen that he had seen and done it all, and that he's a husk of his former self. Of course, at this point, the Empire has been reigning for quite some time now. Besides, we're sure he was more enthusiastic about being a rebel back in the day. That said, it feels like he's seen over the years that being a hero isn't so simple, it's brutal and depressing, which honestly is conveyed so well during his monologue. Now, even though he doesn't go into any specifics, Luthen still says many throwaway lines that could have some pretty massive implications. In fact, one of the things he says even implies that he's a former Jedi or just a secret Force user who's hiding right under the Empire's nose. Up next, Luthen alludes to Order 66 and the Jedi Order. There's a lot of poetic weaving going on in this scene. After all, if there's anything that makes a character feel mysterious, it's the fact that they spew some random stuff that, at its surface, doesn't make much sense. But that's the genius thing about Luthen's speech. While he's saying things that, to most people, seem gibberish, a lot of it is actually pretty meaningful for hardcore fans of the franchise. For instance, at one point, he says that he has made his mind a sunless space, suggesting that his life used to be much happier back in the day. What's more, he doubles down on this cryptic backstory by saying, quote, "I share my dreams with ghosts." Again, it shows that he's probably lost a lot of friends along the way. If you actually sit down and dissect it though, you'll realize that it's got another more fascinating meaning as well. Seriously, ghosts? Star Wars? Yep, you got it. Jedi Force ghosts. It seems like Luthen's alluding to the fact that he knew a lot of Jedi Knights who died during Order 66, and now they guide him as Force ghosts instead. Now, whether he was a Jedi or not is another question, but at least we know he was there. In fact, if you needed any more confirmation of his involvement with the Jedi Order, hear this out. During his monologue, the rebel leader also mentions that he wakes up every day to an equation he wrote 15 years ago. And this, in and of itself, is a big admission. What's more, Luthen plays a part in the Clone Wars. Alright, so what even is this quote-unquote equation he wrote 15 years ago? Better yet, what was going on around that time? Well, considering how Andor set 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, it can only mean one thing. Exactly. The Clone Wars. Of course, this doesn't mean that Luthen was a clone trooper or something back then, but we all know that the Empire rose as a direct consequence of that war. Still, there are a few things we could look at here. For starters, the guy has been heavily implied in the show to be a Force user, and even though the Jedi aren't the only Force users in the galaxy, assuming that he was in some way related to the Order would not be far-fetched. What's more, there was a lot of turmoil during that war, and perhaps he abandoned his Jedi roots to seek something else, kinda like what Ahsoka did. That being said, we're swimming in pure speculation waters here, so take everything with a grain of salt. But hey, you know what isn't speculation? His insane treasure trove of artifacts on Coruscant. Not to mention the rebel leader's antique emporium. This right here is the most fascinating thing about Luthen. Sure, he's a mysterious guy living a double life in the middle of Coruscant, the Empire's home, but the fact that he's got so many pieces of Star Wars lore with him, frankly, mind-blowing. At the same time though, this is perhaps the showrunner's way for us to learn more about his future. After all, it's the subtle details that can make all the difference in the world. Oh, and let's not forget owning Jedi and Sith relics isn't child's play in this era. In fact, it's literally illegal. illegal, which is why criminal overlords like Brachus the Hutt usually deal with this stuff. Let's start with the holocrons though. No one knows how he got his hands on these Sith and Jedi data storage devices, though it should be noted that it's extremely rare for a non-Force user to have one. Plus, he's also got keystones from Rebels' Lothal Mortis mural, meaning he's also tied to the world between worlds and powers of the Force. What's more, there's also a shot of a helmet in the background during one of his shop sequences, which belonged to a Jedi temple guard, so maybe he was just a guard at the temple and fled the place during Order 66. Coming up, could Luthen be a Jedi Padawan? Okay, let's talk about two of the biggest clues that link him to the Jedi Order: Plo Koon's Keldor breathing mask and an actual Kyber crystal. Now, we know that the Jedi Master is dead at this point, so this could very well mean that Luthen was his Padawan and keeps the breathing mask to remember his slain master. Besides, the Kyber crystal adds extra credence to this claim, even if it's not your usual stone from Ilum. Still, the fact that he knows so much about the Jedi Order and these artifacts confirmed that this is more than just his side hustle, and we can't wait to see if the showrunners actually reveal his truth later down the road. Now for Andor's incredible One Way Out riot. Enough about Luton, let's talk about what happened before his big speech at the end, cause One Way Out has just set the bar for Star Wars storytelling. Of course, there's been a lot of build up to this moment on Narkina 5's prison as Cassian tries to figure out a way to escape. And when everyone realizes that the Empire isn't actually letting anyone go, then all hell breaks loose. We've gotta say though, Andy Serkis was the star of this episode and delivered one of the best Star Wars performances ever. Everything from his announcement to his character Kino's arc was perfect, and honestly, this was exactly what the franchise desperately needed. Following up, the Narkina 5 uprising was Star Wars at its best. Sure, the episode was an exhilarating watch, but so are other moments in the franchise. What made this one so special though? Well, in a nutshell, it's the fact that we've never seen this side of Star Wars before that really sets this apart in a league of its own. Like, just hundreds upon hundreds of prisoners running at Imperial guards without caring for their lives? What's more, so many of them end up dying with a single blaster shot too, which makes it all feel real. Oh, and it's not just some side characters, we literally see people from Table 5 die a few minutes into the riot. And that's the thing about One Way Out, despite all the glory of the uprising, it still highlights the sacrifices that everyone's made for Cassian and the gang to escape, which is such a great analogy for the rebellion as a whole. Finally, where could Andor even go now? With Cassian escaping and Kino staying in the prison after his heartbreaking admission, it seems like we're already past the climax of this season. Then again, we felt the same way during that whole heist arc as well. And that's the thing about Andor, the show does such a brilliant job of dividing its acts and one-upping itself that it's almost impossible to judge where it'll even go. Oh, and let's not forget, we literally know what happens to Cassian at the end of his journey in Rogue One, so it's gonna be super fascinating how Lucasfilm gives some side characters like Cyril Karn and Deidre a satisfying cliffhanger ending leading into Season 2. After all, we saw little of them during Episode 10, so it's probably the right time to wrap things up over there too. That said, things are gonna speed up even further due to the time jumps in Season 2, and frankly, we're here for it. That's a wrap for this video. What do you make of Andor's One Way Out arc? Please let us know in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.